Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Unfiltered Veterinary Discussions. I am being joined today by Peter, David, Phil, and our new panelist, Beth. Welcome, Beth. This is the official wave
Oh,
that we've decided. Yep.
got it.
So those people watching us on video kind of know about the official wave. Please join us at unfilteredvetdiscussions.com to see more of our shining faces, see some of our past recordings. You can also follow us on social media and the various podcast platforms like Google and Apple and Spotify. Today, we are going to talk about operation efficiencies. So, who would like to start off with a little warm up of what that actually means? Because I think that could go in many directions, correct?
Phil,
Indeed.
who are you pointing at?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I was trying to point at Beth, but
Me.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Uh,
were telling us about the struggle
yes.
currently.
Yes. So my practice, so just to give a little bit of background, so I have a small animal practice in the suburbs of Philly. We have 7 doctors. So we usually have 2 or 3 doctors seeing appointments at any given time, and then also someone usually in surgery. So we are currently working on a concern that my team has on efficiency, basically in appointments of like moving the client from the check-in to the checkout and all the way through that process and trying to be efficient use of my team and making sure my doctors are on time, making sure they have efficient help, just sort of what that whole process looks like. So we're in the middle of troubleshooting because it's not working great the way we're doing it right now. So I figured it would be a good one to talk about and see if you guys have any ideas or suggestions or things that have worked in your practices.
I'm
I don't want
curious.
to, I don't want to dominate this call, so I'll let the other guys talk.
Well, I'm just curious what resources you're tapping into so far to try and help. I mean,
Okay.
Vet Partners is coming out with in the annual meeting here with the team utilization guide and information, but it's not public yet. But what resources have you been reaching out to or bringing in?
Yeah, so we haven't done too much yet. I actually just scheduled for myself a demo with one of the like the Talkatoo type integration um, platforms to try and see if that'll help on the record keeping side of it. And then other than that, like we have a team lead on the floor who tries to help like traffic control to make sure people are moving through the appointments. But I don't have any other, I'm open to suggestion as far as other ways to help integrate things into the process to make it better.
And
Okay.
David, did
And
you
we know Peter's ready
Yeah,
to
but
Yeah.
just
Right.
1 second, going back,
green light.
partners piece, do you know when that will be published and kind of just a skeleton or a summary of what that's going to cover? So people
Well,
know.
that's coming out Friday or Saturday at the Vet Partners meeting.
So when
I
people
think
hear
this
this podcast, it will have already been published.
should already. Well, I don't know the timeline for public, but yeah, we should have an update for everybody that's listening pretty soon, um, and they can contact us for that certainly.
Yeah, ffpartners.org, right? Just,
Yeah,
yeah.
that'll
And,
be coming through that channel.
and what's the abstract on that? What is that trying to cover? Just at a high level?
Well, it's team utilization from top to bottom, and operational efficiency, trying to recapture some of the product that or the productivity that practices had pre-COVID that was lost as everybody got rocked, and what busy feels like. And so just coming up with a structure and a plan, utilizing your doctors, your license techs, your tech assistants, kind of spreading that out in a more collaborative environment to work more efficiently, which is better for the business, but it's also better for the pets because we can take care of more pets when everybody's working to contribute to the pet care. And that's the plan. They've been working on it for a year with a collection of Vet Partners members at all levels. So it's been pretty exciting. We had a little bit of an intro at the mid-year meeting last summer, And I think everything's coming out here at the end of this week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great resource for listeners. So I just want to let people know.
Coming soon.
Available, vetpartners.org. It will be placed on there, or you can certainly reach out and somebody can reach back to you. Peter, were you trying to leap into the fray and I stepped in?
I just wanted to tell everybody that was listening, that was a very obvious sign of inefficiency in the way that we completely skirted what the question was before we get back to the question. Okay. So if you want to look at efficiency, we would have gone right to Beth's question, but we did what every veterinary hospital does, which is walk around in circles trying to find our way to the ultimate outcome.
Like
Well,
how
the answer
Garrison
is more
Keillor
staff.
tells a story.
The answer is more staff.
The answer is always more staff if you ask the staff.
Staff.
And it's
No
more
matter, right,
doctors
right.
if you
Yes.
ask the doctors.
Always more
and-
staff. More staff.
And when it comes down to operational efficiency, it's really doing things doing things right to get to the outcome that you want. And you have to begin with the outcome. So if I want to get from here to Bucks County, if I go west, it's going to take me a while because I have to go around about 80% of the world to get to Bucks County from California heading west. But if I head east, it's only a 5-hour flight to Philly and then probably an hour drive depending on traffic. So it starts with the end in mind. If you don't know what you'd like to see your optimal exam room experience look like, you'll never get there. So begin with the end in mind. And that means starting with the team and working through it and playing through it and going through it step by step to cut out the extraneous steps, and also recognize that you as the doctor only have to do 3 things: diagnose, prescribe, and do surgery, except in certain states where you also have to give a rabies shot like New Jersey. So if doctors are doing non-doctor stuff, that's ineffective, inefficient, and non-productive. If doctors are diagnosing, prescribing, and doing surgery, great. If you've got credentialed techs in the state of Pennsylvania, which is where you are located, there are specific things that only credentialed techs can do. They should work to the top of their job description. Everybody else can do anything else within the legal limits of your state. But we don't do that in veterinary medicine because doctors don't like to share. We don't play well in the same sandbox, and we don't trust our staff to get the work done, but I don't have an opinion. And so it really starts with the end and then creating the steps that will get you from point A to point B in the most efficient fashion. Because I do a talk where I actually show, it looks like a Picasso drawing, what a client experience looks like. And it really looks like somebody vomited Fruit Loops all over a piece of paper because it's just so inefficient. So start with the end in mind and then build the optimal, most efficient client experience for 80% of what you do, which is really about exams, and then work back to make sure you're doing it and practice, 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 so it becomes muscle memory. And I can give you books to read as well that talk about that. But no, this is what I talk about all the time, Beth. So that's why I love the question.
Yeah, it sounds like an awesome team leader meeting, offsite workshop for an afternoon somewhere, and lots of small group work and coming back and what are the goals? What do we want the client experience to be? What do we need the medical experience to be? And how do those integrate? And who's going to do it?
And it should be team driven. Actually, the doctors should be not leading this. It's really the doctors go in, do their 10 minutes, and the staff does the vast majority of it to increase the efficiency to lean into what Vet Partners is hoping to do. In a 30-minute appointment, it's 10 minutes of doctor time, which means you can now see more people. So I don't know if we answered any of your questions, but Phil, I'm sure you want to disrupt that whole conversation.
Well, not disrupt it, but add to it. And also, I going into what we do here is we oftentimes tell stories. And as my kids would jokingly say every time that I go, I used to work at Olive Garden. And they're like, oh, really? You've never told us that before. Because I have told them that. However, I worked really, really hard my first 3 months waiting tables, and I didn't make a lot of money. And it was because somebody needed a glass of water. I'd run back and get a glass of water for that table. And then I'd come back out, and then that person at the other table, then they needed an iced tea. And then I went back, and then this other table needed something, and I'd run back and forth. And so one of my colleagues was like, you're making 50 trips, when you really only need to make one, is go around, get everything you need, one trip back, one tray, boom, 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 go to each table. And to the point is that the experience of the customer wasn't any less. They were all getting what they needed, but I wasn't as smoked. And to the point is they were actually getting it more expeditiously than they were before. And I was able to turn my tables over. So it's that same thing. And so, to Peter's point, we have to know we have to have the end goal in mind to know where we want to get. But what was interesting for us is like when COVID hit, is all of a sudden now the process that we'd been using, whether it was broken or not, was no longer going to be suitable. So we had to figure out a new way of intake. What does that look like? And so what we did was break down, well, what does it look like from the time a client contacts our hospital to get in till the time that they pay and leave the hospital? What are the steps, that are involved? And if I don't know that part of it, I'm in trouble. But is breaking down, what does a typical appointment look like? And we did it, not that what we did is the best way to do it, but we did it by annual, sick, and surgery. And that's where we started, because there were different protocols. And then we broke that down. And to Peter's point, one of the things now that we've done is when I was up north working with the group up there, we had the same thing. We had a really hard time turning clients, getting rooms turned around. And what we said in the beginning is I came in that we need more staff. And I was like, maybe, but I said, walk with me on this. So we broke down what the exam room visit was. And we tried to say that the doctor, your goal was to go into that room one time for 5 to 7 minutes. And we just had that in mind. And it's because we had our doctors get, I just sat there and watched, and our doctors would go in, 4 or 5 times in an appointment. And same thing with the staff. And so anyhow, just being mindful of, are there ways that we can shorten this? Are there ways that we can offload things? So using technology is great, but if we're not, just buying it won't magically make make everything great. So we've got to have a plan for implementation. But
Can I show my,
the other thing,
go ahead. Can I show my Picasso?
Yes, please.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
I love it.
All
That
right,
fits
I don't need
nicely
to.
with what
Yeah.
Phil was describing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about chaos control.
Mhm.
Of course, while we're
Now-
proselytizing about all this, Beth, you've already done all of this and just there chuckling.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw another layer on this. Sometimes it's not thought of, but since this is my world of marketing and client communications, whenever you get it sorted out inside the business, make sure you market what you do on all your marketing materials digitally, on the website, social media, blogging, whatever. So that's your new digital lobby. So whenever people read about you, like, hey, I want to have this experience, and the reviews are saying this experience, that whatever is written out in the greater world in the wild matches their in-person experience. because if there's a disconnect with that, if I read as a potential client or a current client that I'm going to have this A+ experience, and then I'm in the practice and I have a C- experience, now I'm crabby. Right? So then the client is in a dissonance as well as the staff that the clients can't see. So when you get your house in order, make sure to create that bridge to the outer world so that everybody knows when they're walking through the doors that this is what they're going to get. This is how it's going to work. This is who they're going to see. And then the client side will run smoother and you guys will be less frazzled because you're dealing with less crabby people with consistent communication.
And
Beth,
I'm
did we
curious,
actually-
Beth, like you have a seven doctor practice,
Mhm.
wildly successful practice. You have almost I think almost 100 employees, 80 to
Not
100
quite that
employees.
many. It's like
But clo-
60 something.
So
Okay.
it's big. A lot of
Tomato,
moving
tomato.
parts.
Big practice.
It is.
So in that whole time, so what's going well? Like what in that process, what's really going well that you're doing? Because if it was all a train wreck, you wouldn't have a
Yeah.
7 doctor practice.
Great
Yeah.
question.
That I see your reviews and you
Yeah.
guys are a huge part of the community. So
Mhm.
what in that process, like what is going well? What has been going well?
Yeah. So I think to kind of speak to what Kelly was just saying, I think our client half of it, like the client facing side, is going great. Our clients have no idea. Like they're seeing the
Yes.
front half where, like, if you look at big picture, we're pretty on time with our schedule. So our clients are not waiting. They're being moved through the process properly. They're greeted properly. There's someone helping them all along the way. Their questions are answered. So to the client facing, I think it looks good. And that side of it is really good. It's just like the back half feels really chaotic and stressful. And it does look like Peter's Picasso, that I think there are a lot of times where my team and my doctors are like in and out of the same appointment room multiple times. So like to the client, it's just them continuing to communicate, but like the process is not very efficient.
Yeah.
So then my team at the end of the day is like, they're like frazzled and they feel overwhelmed and they feel like they've been running around like chickens with their heads cut off, because I think there is like a little bit of a lack of efficiency. And right now, the process that we're using, which we're abandoning because I was like, this is not working, is there's supposed to be like a doctor nurse team that the nurse takes the history, then goes in with the doctor, stays with the doctor, does the treatments, and then takes the person to check out, goes over the meds. So it's like supposed to be the same person. But right now it's not working because a lot of times that person will be finishing the last appointment when the doctor is starting the next appointment. So now someone else has roomed it and taken the history. And now that person moved on to something else. So then when the doctor is going in, now they're like going in by themselves. And then my doctors are like, I don't have anyone helping me. So I'm sorry, I could like spiral about this because it's like a source of frustration for my team right now. But I think to the clients, it looks like it's going fantastic. And like we still have very happy clients, but my team, I feel like we just need to like tighten up on efficiency. So like a lot of the big picture stuff that you guys are talking about, we have totally already done. It's just like physically where they are to be the most assistance to the doctors and to keep it moving efficiently so they don't feel so stressed out during that process, I think is where like the refining needs to come in.
I imagine what you just described probably applies to almost 90% of the small animal practices that are out there.
Yeah.
At
But
least
the client
75,
side is one way, the
Yeah.
back side and the workflow, that's work in progress.
Yeah.
But you're tackling it. That's awesome. You're aware of it. You know, being self-aware as a culture and doing something about it. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Not easy, but very cool.
It is not easy.
And there is no easy button. So if you think you're going to fix this overnight, this is a 6-month process if you do it correctly. Because what you're trying to do is create muscle memory so that everybody's doing it the same way each time, every time, all the time, no matter who it is, and you create the process that anybody can step in and do it, because it cannot be people dependent, it needs to be process dependent.
Yeah.
That kind of rolls off my lips, doesn't it?
You sat up more than maybe what time or two
Yes.
and taught it.
Yeah.
So Peter, do you want to wrap us up for the day?
Point on. Yeah.
Since you live and breathe this conversation?
Well, I think I want to bring it home in the sense that Beth is a symptom of a bigger disease. Not Beth herself, but her practice is a symptom of a bigger disease in our American world, in the sense that much of what we do and much of the costs that we deal with in business, small business, large business, et cetera, is due to inefficiency. And because much of what we do is very people dependent, it's bound to be inefficient unless you hire the right people, take the time to engage them, onboard them, orient them, and continue to train them, and then provide them with successful processes and systems that they can work through. So I think the messaging here is, Beth, don't take it as if you're not doing a good job. You're actually doing a great job because you were able to diagnose the problem. Now it's setting up the treatment plan. And I think the bottom line goes to my acronym that I use all the time, which is WANJI, which is to work on, not just in, your practice. So now it's time for you, Beth, for you to take your team and step away from the practice and work on it so that everything within it works well. So everybody go out and WANJI.
Wanji.
Awesome. Well, we will finish up today on Unfiltered Vet Discussions. Official wave, guys, official wave. And we will talk to you in whatever form you like next time, be it on YouTube, podcast, carrier pigeon we haven't quite gotten to yet, but everything else is available digitally. And with that, we say adieu. Bye.
Thanks, Beth.
Wanji.